And two, happy to be able to be back. We actually are back in the think tank, sitting on the very virtual blue couch. Definitely hope you guys are tuning in tonight because this topic is going to be very good. I already feel the flames that are about to come from each and every person that's in this think tank at the moment. But what we're going to do is always introduce everyone that's in here, and then we'll go from there. You know our two guest hosts, but we actually got a special guest with us today, and I'll let him give himself his own braggadocious introduction. All right? So.
What's up, everybody? Nadia back again. So happy to be back on the blue couch. I'm excited to talk to everybody and get into this good discussion.
What's going on, everybody? Charles DeLoach III. I'm excited to be a part of this discussion. I'm the college pastor at Brown.
What's poppin'? It's Gab. I'm back here. I'm so excited. This is our first time back on the blue couch in 2022, so I'm very excited.
Exactly, and for me, Floyd Trey Lee, excited as well, like each and every person said. We're about to just jump straight into it. So today's topic is called The Gospel According to Kanye West, aka Exploring the Mind of Kanye West. The reason why we want to talk about Kanye because he's a very unique person. I think when it comes to Kanye, sometimes we can take the things that he's doing as a grain of salt, or sometimes we can take it as antics. Some people may have just got finished watching the Genius doc on Netflix. I'm not sure if you have or not, but definitely was a good documentary. I would advise you to try to check it out. Kanye has been doing a lot lately, so you probably seen his name in the news, not just for trying to run for president, but also divorce and some other antics that's been going on. But one thing about Kanye, I do believe that God has his hands on him. When you watch the documentary, you can see that God was a part of his foundation, but you do see where that foundation is still there, but the bricks that was a part of building Kanye up have been removed, and some of those bricks being his mom and some other things. But before we go into that, I would just like to start this conversation off like this. If you had an opportunity to meet Kanye West, and all of you all are great at ministering, how would you direct, or how would you evangelize, or how would you go about ministering to Kanye West? Because I do believe you have a lot of yes men in his life, but if you had an opportunity to minister to Kanye West, how would you go about doing it? And whoever want to take it, you got it.
Kanye West is an intellectual, smart, very well versed, and when you meet people like that on the street, you can't talk to them. You can't give them scripture and church antics. Like, you have to really meet them where they are. I feel like I would love to sit down and just listen to him talk. I would love it. I think it would be one of the best conversations I would have in life. But to evangelize, like to really give somebody Jesus like Kanye, it would really take being led by the Holy Spirit. It would really take like a demonstration of the power of God to bring him in. And I think if he was able to intellectualize or connect emotionally to the gospel, we'll talk about the rest of that stuff later. I think it would be impactful, but I don't think that you can sit down and Bible study Kanye West. I don't think you can, because he's too smart. He's just way too smart. I think he would be receptive, but the conversation would go on so many tangents, just loop-de-loop, round and round. But that would be my approach.
That would be your approach.
Might work.
What about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the documentary. Kanye, just seeing his drive and seeing his mind is crazy. And I was watching. I'm just like, this is wild. But I think Kanye is the type of person where he needs a theophany. That's a big word, but that's basically an encounter from God. Basically, God showing himself on earth in some type of way. And like, he just needs this big boom, and then he needs that Ananias, right, to come to be directed to. Because Kanye knows the Lord. You know, even watching the documentary, he knows God. He knows the foundation. He has that instilled in him. And so I just believe that she said something profound, the spirit, you know, finding the opportunity to do that in conversation, but also I think reflecting back to his mother, right? So talking about his mother with him and seeing, like obviously Dunda was crazily heavily involved, the support that she provided for him. with some type of stability that propelled him. They even said in the documentary that his mom gives him this even keel spirit, and so that void is obviously missing, and so kind of creating opportunity in the void of his mother to see how he's taking that, but what's that causing him to do, and then substituting that with the Lord, right? So how can we minister to that dead spot where you don't have a Dunda in your life right now? Well, how can we put the Savior there? You know, that's how I would try to navigate it.
I like that.
Sheesh. The first thing I did think about was like a Damascus Road moment. Because of someone who is just so intellectually sound, and from outside looking in, we like, you're crazy. No, he's very much a genius, to be honest about it. And so I think definitely he needs visuals, because in my mind, how Kanye views things, like even music, like in his head, I feel like music is visualized. It's not just sounds and words and things like that. So I definitely think he would need something that he could see, even though we know that faith is the substance, you know. We get that, but sometimes people do need to see it in order to not only believe it, but in order to know it, because believing and knowing are two different things, because you can know a thing and not believe it, and vice versa. So, you know, I think he definitely would need something. It would have to be miraculous, if you want me to be honest about it. Just thinking of his mind, like it would have to be something miraculous to just knock him off his horse and be like, okay, God, like this is who you are to me. Like, and like y'all said, like Kanye definitely knows the Lord. Like you can tell, even through his music, like just going through like his repertoire and his albums and stuff like that, you see where he his ups and downs are. Like you really can view his journey, his mental and emotional journey for sure, throughout his music. And me and Nadi were talking about this, and we'll probably get into it later. We were comparing Kanye and David together, and so I brought up this thing of, well, maybe Kanye's albums are his songs in a sense, and just really like working through that whole situation. But I definitely, just answering the question, I definitely think he would need a visual. Like it would have to be something tangible for him to be like, this, like I know God for sure. Like I know this is God.
So I like what you all were saying, but when he went to Dunda, I had that like it was on the list, but we can put that now. Why? Because when I think about Dunda, and I was just noticing her throughout the documentary, it was like she would always say things to him. She was like, it's okay to be confident. But she also would say stuff like a giant that looks in the mirror does not see anything, doesn't see anyone else. And then also the moments like the higher he kept elevating, like she knew every word to his song, but the part that got me was like, how to put it? The part that got me was like how she was so capable of knowing her son. Like no matter how high he got in his life, she knew her child. And the other part there was that when it came to Dunda, it was like when he kept going higher, he wanted her closer, because he was like, in a sense, he knew that she was his leveling out, like she was his baseline. And so this way it brings me to saying, what do we do for people that are around us when that baseline is removed? Because like you said, yes, we want to put Jesus there, but some people don't know how to walk that journey, and they don't have the right people walking that journey with them. Because like I said, he would never get Dunda again, but we do know that Dunda was his baseline. She was how he leveled himself out.
That makes me think about Paul. It makes me think about how Paul being who he was when he was Saul, right? And then he has his Damascus Road moment, and he's offered all these resources to assist in him learning how to preach the gospel, right? And he takes it on in stride with the same strength and power that he had when he was persecuting the church. And it makes me think that when that was removed from Paul, when that identity was removed from Paul, it took God changing his life and not even so much changing it, but redirecting what was already in Paul, right? So the same boisterous, the same confidence, the same I'm loud, I'm proud, I'm here, you're gonna see me, you know, that Paul had. Very unapologetic about the gospel that he was doing when he was persecuting the church. When he took that baseline of persecution from Paul, he used that same strength to equip the church, right? Sure. So with Kanye taking that baseline of, let's say, his mom away, just like scripture says, he's a father to the fatherless and the widows he does not forget. If you put in the presence of God in Kanye's life, then you're giving not even Dunda back, but something better, right? So with people that are like that, when you take away what their identity has always been without Christ, you have to, like they say, when you get deliverance from something, you got to put something else back there, because you have to fill the void. You're taking away somebody's baseline or what their norm or what they're used to. You have to put something back there that it can bring the comfort that he needs, you know, the guidance, the support, even a sense of familiarity, because God our Father, you know, replacing who his mom was to him. And in a sense, it's how we have to challenge like our idols and how we look at people and how we view the people who have always been, let's say, our baseline. And then there's this void. So what do I do with this? And the Lord is like, I'm here. Hello. You know, it's me. But sometimes it's hard to fit that into a place because he's not physically there. You know, so and I think for Kanye, it may have been a transition of trying to figure out what to put in that void, you know, and how to allow that to mold into where he was as a person, as an artist, you know, rising into stardom and finding out who he was as a man, as a black man, as a believer, as a non-believer, whatever phases he may have gone through, finding out how to put God in that place once the baseline was changed. And I hope what I said made sense.
No, it made sense.
Went on a tangent.
No, it made sense because when you look at it, a person like Kanye, you could tell he was surrounded, the people that were almost similar to Dunda's spirit, he would push them away, and then the other people would come in that would boost his ego. And I see that a lot with a lot of people, that instead of having the people around you that's gonna hold you accountable, we want yes men, we want yes women, we want people that's gonna lift us and allow us to go through these antics. And so some people may be like, well, this is how he wants to heal, this is how he's processing his healing. But instead of understanding that healing is not a journey that's easy within itself. Healing is nothing that's gonna feel good. And so in the process of healing, you can't expect someone to be like, well, just do whatever you want to do. Let your emotions be. Because when we see Kanye West now, most of the times he's passionate about what he's talking about, and he's so emotional. Like even in his conversation, he's trying to get things out, and it's like so much stuff is coming through his head. So he's trying to like tell you how he feel about chicken, but then somewhere in his mind he's still talking about being president. He's like, Kanye, how do these two things fit? And so to somebody watching on the outside, they're like, he's crazy. But the reality is like, no, he has a lot going on with him, and nobody has helped him really walk through the journey of healing. When he lost his mom, he lost his baseline. And true enough, yes, he's saying that he has Jesus, but I don't think he's really delve deep into that relationship with God like that.
I think the thing about that too is, so we have to see something. It's something that I've been watching, but I guess the perspective that I see Kanye in is that one, Kanye has power.
Absolutely.
Right, so he has power in the aspect of money. He has power in the aspect of music. He can put anything out. Anybody's gonna listen to it. He can say whatever he wants to say.
Connections.
He's at that level past mogul, right? Kanye is an icon. He's past that, and so he can do literally whatever he wants to do within the U.S. Because he feels that, and so he feels empowered to do that based off of what he's done in these years. And so now, when you have power, in the fact and mix that in with Christian, right? It's two different things, because not saying that we can't have power as Christians, but when you have that much power in the U.S. in terms of whatever you do, it's hard to truly humble yourself, perhaps, and say to the Lord, hey, I need you. Now, has he put the music out that Jesus is Lord? Yes, I believe millions of people have heard the gospel through his songs, and I love it. I love Kanye. I'm a Kanye fan, but I think he's wrestling with that power struggle, perhaps. and then even trying to heal. Let's be honest, he probably hadn't even healed.
You're right. That's exactly true.
You know, I mean, I never lost my mom. I haven't lost my mom, and so I don't know that feeling.
Yeah.
That void feeling. My mom was a huge supporter of me as well. So watching Miss Dunda and how she was with Kanye, I'm like, man, like thank God I had a mom like
Made
that.
you tear up.
You know what I'm saying? It hit me, and so to see his progression, to see how she navigated, but she strategically knew what to say. And now there's nobody around him. Right now he's dealing with divorce. Of course he's hurt by that. We see that, and so the question is, I think the tension in what we have to look at is his power, but also him trying to surrender to Christ's power, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you navigate that? You know, it's and I think that's a harder level to navigate. Now, most of us Christians, we don't have that power as the Kanye has. I mean, and so it's a different type of feel. I mean, let's be honest, Kanye's on another realm.
Yeah.
In terms of society. So how does he connect with that? In terms of aspect, I bet he probably feels like nobody can tell him nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a problem within itself. And so perhaps he feels like he can't trust anybody. I was watching a documentary on Dr. King, this recent one, and they were saying that he was so afraid to go to a therapist because he didn't know if that therapist would leak whatever he had in his mind. And so he didn't even avail himself to go and put him in a position because he was afraid that it would be exposed to the government, be exposed to people. So perhaps Kanye may feel, you know, I don't know who can help me. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily he feels a sense of pride, but it's probably a possible feeling that Dr. King had, is that I don't know if they're gonna link everything out of my mind, and now, you know, boom, they make him out to be this thing. But the question is his power, right? So Kanye's power and the Lord's power, how can he be able to succumb to that? You know, I think that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm seeing, is that he's on another tier, you know, and mentally, like when you become a billionaire, perhaps you feel like there's nothing else for you to do, you know, and so he's creating things, you know. Actually, I went to Dunda in Chicago and just seen how he did that and seen that production. I'm just like, you know, you're there and just like, man, like, you know, he can do whatever you want to do, because if that was anybody else, you'd be like, yeah, this wasn't, you know,
Right.
Kanye, so it's like, it, you know, it has that effect. But yeah, the power struggle, I think, is a big thing.
Yeah, so, and then with that being said, so now you look at it on the mental side of it. And so, you know, we like to get spicy in the think tank, and this part is about to probably get a little spicy. Why I say that? Because when it comes to mental health, as soon as somebody, you know, Kanye has come out saying that he is bipolar, one thing we notice that when people have mental attacks in their life, they go to God. They quickly start. They become very spiritual. The scary part is that when people in the world that are not believers see that, in their mind, they view it as, oh, he just went crazy. You know, again, that word again, and they don't take it serious. They don't take his encounter with God. They don't take the gospel that he's preaching. They like, oh, he's just doing it because he's having his phase, or he's going through this mental stage, that mental crisis that he's going through. But us as believers, we do know for sure, as we read the Bible, we've seen with Elijah, when he went up under the tree and he asked God, hey, I can't do this anymore. You know, he wanted God to take his life. Or you see David have his mental breakdowns. You see Jonah was at a point where he wanted the pirates to throw him off the ship. Throw me off the ship. Like, he like, hey, this ain't got nothing to do with them, God, this me. Hoping that God is not going to take him to Nineveh. But my point is, for us as believers, we can see that, and now we can be supportive of Kanye in this sense of being able to let people know that when a believer do go through things like that, that encounter, it's a spiritual and mental phase. And so I'm asking this question because I know, Nadia, you being a therapist, and Gabby, you and Nadia are very in tune with each other, and y'all have some deep conversations. So what I'm asking is, how do you encourage somebody that's going through a mental health battle and they're more spiritual than ever, but to them they're seeing how people critique and criticize Kanye West's journey through his battle with bipolar, but at the same time saying Jesus is Lord? How do we encourage our brothers and sisters that are going through that same step journey?
You want me to start?
With whoever wants to. I know. I told you I wanted to make it a little spicy.
We have to humanize people. I think a lot of times, not even being on Kanye's level, but being a preacher or being a believer in general, we take the label and we forget the person. And I think in order for us to help people and to truly help and show that we care about people, we really do have to see them as human beings. And that is exactly what Kanye is. He, aside from him being a man, like even that, he's a human being going through what any of us could potentially go through. And I think really taking it for what it is and not creating it to be something else. So if he said, you know, this is what I struggle with, you know, of course you're gonna have people say, oh my gosh, I can't deal with you no more, you crazy, because you're gonna go through all these phases and I'm not gonna understand, blah blah blah. But we have to be the people to say, okay, I may not get anything that's about to go on in your life or how you are going to handle them, but I'm here to, you know, at least extend what I can in order to meet you where you are. And so, like I mentioned earlier, this conversation about Kanye and David, really that we had the other day, like it was top tier. And of course we're gonna let y'all into it, but just thinking about how David struggled with anxiety, like his entire life the man was anxious, but the seed of anxiety and the anxiousness didn't start when David became king. You know what I'm saying? It was with him when he was, you know, a shepherd boy, like that's where it started. And so the seeds that Kanye, like the fruit that he is like showing now, those seeds were very small to begin with. You know what I'm saying? They started when he was young and, you know, began to grow. Some of them died off and some of them have grown into these big mighty oak trees, and whether we like it or not, this is what he's portraying, you know, himself to be. But really just seeing people as human beings, I think it escapes us so much. And I'm very passionate about it because I've been the person to, like, Nadia calls me sparkly, but I have been the person to view people as sparkly. Every day, normal people, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're amazing, you're awesome, you're great. And forgetting that, you know, even when we talk about cancel culture, like we forget that people are simply people. So, you know.
She finna get her.
So to answer the question, how do we encourage other people? When Kanye first got on his when Kanye first started talking about, you know, his faith, I got scared. I was like, oh Lord. Not because I thought it wasn't real, but because I knew people were not going to receive it. It made me really nervous to see how church people were responding to Kanye. And they were questioning. And I remember I made a post, and it actually came up on my memories the other day. And I was like, y'all got y'all deliverance on the altar, snotting and crying in the privacy of your own church. And now Kanye doing it on the stage, and you got a problem. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that the church was handling it, but it also made me nervous because I knew that the context of the world would not be able to receive that and understand that dealing with a transition of a power struggle. When you said that it was so profound, because I think the root of where Kanye comes from, I think his mother taught him to be confident in himself, rightfully so. Parents. Teach your children to be confident in themselves, but there's another, the duality of it is recognizing that everything that you do comes from the Lord. Everything you do. So now Kanye is at this point where I can do this. Like his mama said, that's $1 million, Kanye. She said on the documentary, he spit a line. That's $1 million. That's $1 million. Pouring that into her child, but neglecting almost a little bit of that comes from the Lord. Everything, every good and perfect thing comes from the Lord. And being able to subdue, like he said, surrender to the power of God. So I think that struggle comes with, I've always been this great. I've always been this powerful. Yeah, I need God too, but I've always been able to do this. But I've always, and it just keeps going, and then it clashes along the way. And I think we forget, like Gabby said, to humanize people. So when you're talking about helping other people realize that it's reminding them, for one, of the gospel and reminding them that they cannot do anything without the power of God. But with Kanye specifically, I feel like encouraging people to see that when you do things without God, this is what can happen. And not to say that this is a consequence, like, oh, he's getting, like people were saying stuff was happening in Katrina because it was they was down there worshiping the devil. Like, to say that it's a consequence, but to say that when you do things without the Lord, this is just what happens.
Yes,
That's so good.
It just happens. It's not because you're a terrible person. It's not because he's mentally ill. It's not because this is what happens when you do things without the Lord. And trying to take an entire world that you've built and bring it into the context is like undoing a whole psyche of I've always been able to do this without him, or with him in the corner somewhere, because he's always had the foundation. I was watching a documentary. He was like, I don't really believe in the constellations thing. I believe in God. And I was like, he got the foundation, but I always been tucked in a corner somewhere, not being Lord of my life, but I pray. Not being, I'm faithful to the word, but I read it every so often. This is what happens when you do things without the Father included in your everyday life, actions, communication, relationships, grief. This is what happens. So even with losing a parent, I lost my dad. I can relate to Kanye in a sense, but trying to go through grief without the Lord, worst decision I ever made in my life. It was terrible. I can imagine that had I not come back to where I would be, like emotionally, mentally, where I would be without that. So I think the biggest thing for us to know as believers and to encourage people to recognize is that you cannot do this life, anything, without the power of God. And every time you do it in your own power, you will fail. But only with Kanye, he's on a bigger scale, so it's a lot more.
It's profound.
I also, we've been saying that Kanye's foundation, like his foundation, we know that he knows God. And so one thing I said to Nadia the other day was that I truly believe, this is spicy in my head, I truly believe that does Kanye know God, and is that his foundation? Yes. But his faith wasn't put into God. His faith was put in his mom. Which is why we see the turning of events once she leaves. Like once she's gone, it's this whole new person that the world has never been exposed to before. And I don't even think Kanye really notices who he is when he looks in the mirror anymore. If you want to be honest about it. But really recognizing that people are messengers and not God himself. I think that plays into just this entire conversation as a whole. And I'm like you, I don't know what it's like to lose a parent, but the faith and like just everything, like it's like he lost himself. Like when his mother died,
most of him
he died with her. And now he's had to create this whole new person and you know what I'm saying, who he wants people to see him as, and it's not really him. And so I think that is really interesting. But like going back to one of the questions that you said about replacing, God always replaces. Like he always gives us something else for something that we lost. And I really do believe that this, like Kanye doing it by himself, he's trying to replace what he lost with, maybe money, music, antics, whatever the case may be. But actually allowing the Spirit to do that and God to do that for him will probably look totally different. And I feel like when it came to him releasing like Jesus is Lord and Sunday service and stuff like that, was him trying. And it was that wrestling thing, like, I'm trying to do this. I'm still grieving, but I'm gonna keep going. Like I still am, having episodes, but I'm gonna keep going. Like I'm still in this space, and I'm trying to rebuild this person. And like you said, Nadia, like you have to allow this space, because God only needs a little bit of space. If you grant him a little bit of space to do what it is that he needs to do, like it's over, like it's done. So I think, yeah.
That's true, because if you think about Kanye's life, his music has always marked an era of what his life looked like.
Exactly.
Every album has marked an era of Kanye's life, or who he is. Like, we go listen to the album, we can tell you what was happening in Kanye West at that time. 808s and Heartbreak. We know that's when his mom passed and when him and his girlfriend had broke up. And, you know, but the thing you said that was so profound to me is that I didn't lose a parent. By the grace of God, I thank him for that. I lost my grandmother, and I started creating this person in my head. Because you know, you tell yourself you got faith in God, but your foundation in my faith was in my grandmother who knew God. And so when she left, I didn't know the God that she knew. I knew the God from the circumstance of what my grandmother presented, but I didn't know Jesus like I know him now. And I'm still learning him, Dave. And so the scary part is that it don't have to be a parent. It can just be somebody that you have put your faith in, and this person has been a part of that foundation. And so when they're removed, you see it differently. But this is the part that got me, because I was listening to you too, Nadia, and he said in his song Hands On, he said I'm finna do a gospel album. Whatever you've been hearing from the Christians, they'll be the first one to judge me, make it feel like nobody loved me. And so now it brings me to that point again. Now I've created this persona, and they still don't accept this persona. So then you got the other people from the outside that's like, man, we miss the old Kanye. We want that old Kanye. And so now he like, well, guess what? I'm finna go back to doing the old Kanye. So now he's fighting a battle between this power struggle. Like you said, the power struggle. Like, God hands his own Kanye, and you can tell that his hands is there, but at the same time, Kanye like, God, I want you there, but I don't want you doing too much, because I'm still trying to make sure I make these people happy, and I'm trying to figure myself out, because the reality of this struggle is I don't know who the old Kanye is, and I don't know who the new Kanye is, because I never knew Kanye, but I knew Dunda, and Dunda was Kanye, and you could tell the way she said his name. She always said his name, like every sentence, Kanye, like she never didn't say his name, but she made sure he knew his name. So why would you change your name to Ye when your mama was so happy about naming you Kanye? But it goes again to what you just said. People will push away that personality, or they're fighting to create another personality, but then you got two parties not accepting me. And so this brings me here as we get ready to, you know, bring it back in. You got two people shunning you away, but you trying to be accepted by both parties. I want the world to love me, but I also want the Christians to take me in. But nobody wants me, because don't nobody want to take all of me, because I'm a mess. Somebody right now watching this like, I'm a mess. I'm trying to find somebody that's gonna take me in, but every party I go to, they like, nope, you can't come here. You not invited. So as we get ready to close this up, I need a word from somebody to encourage people that are watching. When you're going through your episodes in life, maybe it's mental health, maybe it's a battle with depression, maybe it's somebody you in a relationship with, and that relationship is ended and you don't know yourself outside of that relationship. Where's your encouragement for that brother and sister that's watching now, saying, hey, I don't know if I'm the old me, the new me, I don't even know who I am, but I right now need Jesus to come into my life. Where's that encouragement at? Y'all preachers, y'all got it.
You know, I would say this. I'm gonna say this. I think first you have to realize and recognize this one thing. There is a difference between knowing God and knowing Jesus.
Completely.
Right. So knowing God, you know how many people? A lot of people know God. They know of God. They're searching for God. I believe that other religions are searching for a higher power who is God. But the only way to God is through Jesus. And so in order to truly be able to get on board and have that fellowship with God, you have to go through his son, Jesus. And so just saying, I know God and I love God, but not recognizing who Jesus is, what he did and what he did for us. You're missing the whole spectrum of the relationship with God. And so in this aspect with Kanye, the thing is that no matter how much Kanye, if he stumbles across this video, no matter how much he changes, no matter how much you change, understand Jesus never did change. It never does change. And is anybody out there that you're going to change? Life is you're going to change. You're going to change every single day, every single year. But we serve a Christ that doesn't. And that's encouraging, right? Christ doesn't change, so he's going to be the same Christ when Dunda was here. The same Christ when Dunda isn't. Same Christ when whoever left your life was here and they're not here again. And so understanding the aspect of Jesus, a lot of people don't really know who Jesus is. And so they don't realize that he never changes, and so they get stuck in that and figure out that he can't love me because I'm different and I don't know how to express myself mentally. No, he does. He died for that, and so know Jesus before you can get to God. That's all. That can go deeper, but I'll stop there to say that.
Y'all got it. He got it. He said it.
This has like been. Of course it came from a conversation with me and Nadia. This has been like on my spirit. I feel like you just bring it up, like if somebody needs to hear it. Don't allow your unknowing or your uncertainty to evoke or bring about impulsivity. I think that sometimes when we don't know, whether it be, you know, somebody leaving and not necessarily dying, but somebody leaving, or you know, we just have those seasons in life where it's just like it's tough and we don't know if we're gonna make it out, if we're gonna make it to the next day or the next second or the next minute type situation. But remember to be as still as possible, because when you are still, you can hear a lot clearer. Even when chaos is going on, just thinking about like being in the house and it's raining. And so for me, when I'm in the house and it's raining, I see the rain, but I don't hear it. So you might see what's going on around you, but to really like zone in on who God is and who Jesus is, and you know, some days you're gonna have to encourage yourself, but don't become impulsive and don't start making rash decisions because you do not know or you don't even understand. And just take a moment to really be like, okay, God, here it is, like this all I have to give. So yeah.
And so, here we go. A lot of people say, or are asking, why did you all name this Exploring the Mind of Kanye West? Also, why did you all name it The Gospel According to Kanye West? I've never seen that in the Bible. What are you talking about? The gospel is the good news. Everybody has a gospel in their life. When people don't know Christ, the first gospel that they read is you. But you say, Floyd, where's the good news? The good news is that what my brother Deloach just said, God never left. God was there from the beginning, and he's going to be there in the middle. And he's also in the end. The thing I love about it is I'm learning that God is so omnipotent, omniscient, that to the point, like, this is the thing, like, God can be in the past giving you grace, while in your present giving you grace, and in your future setting up some more grace and favor. So the blessing part, but the blessing part of it is that there's a gospel in Kanye's life. There's a gospel in your life. And in this time, there will be people that will reject you. There will be people that will accept you. There are going to be people that you want in your corner because they let you do whatever you want, and then there are going to be people in your corner that you're going to need in your corner. But my point is that I want to encourage the person that's watching this right now that God has plans for your life. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm not going to tell you turn around 3 times, then you're going to get everything you asked for. That's prosperity gospel. So here we go. God has a plan for your life. And this is what I want everybody to know. The party don't stop here. You know what we like to do, the after party, where you can ask us all the questions. So as we close here, get ready to set up. We finna go to the after party. But for those that's not gonna make it to the after party, stay safe and protect yourself. get into all that. But like I said, give some people some time to jump into the after party. And for those of you that are new to the after party, this is where we teamed up with Brown Everywhere, Pastor P, Pastor Petty, working together with the community, the virtual community, trying to make sure we have that setting where we connect. We have great conversations, we have great content, but we got to connect. And the best way to connect is through having those questions being thrown at us. I actually got a couple of questions sent over to me. I'm definitely going to bring that up. We got two other people going to hop on with us, but we're going to kick it off real quick. So basically, a lot of people ask, why did we do a conversation on Kanye West? And that was the reason why. Like, that's your answer. Why do a conversation on Kanye West? I think right now, when we see Kanye, we see all the different sides and phases of Kanye West, and we forget to do something that Gab said in the actual conversation. She said, humanize him. We see him as a celebrity, and sometimes we don't know what we're getting from him. And sometimes we can be more relatable to Kanye than we think. And I know sometimes that looks like, hey, what am I looking at? What am I doing? Who am I becoming? And I think God has a plan for all of us. That's why I continuously say that, because I do believe God has a plan for us all, even in our bad days and our good days. God has a continued plan. But let's get into this first question. The first question was, if Kanye West is a Christian, why doesn't his fruit show when it comes to what the public is seeing, especially right now? And I think they're referring to the Kim Kardashian situation with his kids and the Pete Davidson actions and all that type of stuff that's going on.
Um, every season is not fruitful. Every season does not produce fruit. Sometimes the fruit is being cultivated. And during this time, I feel like, just thinking about seasons in general, what is it? Spring, summer, fall, winter. In the fall, things start to change colors. Winter, things die off. There is no fruit, especially for some trees. And then in the spring, things start to bud. And in the summer, there are different things going on and fruit being shown. So I think that we've all had unfruitful seasons where we have made mistakes, or where we are trying to figure things out, trying to figure ourselves out. Maybe we have tried to get ahead of God. Maybe we are just not in the best of places, and our lives don't represent that. And so I think that goes back to the humanization of this man. He is a Christian, and that's what he proclaims himself to be. And so if that's who he is, even the brightest of seasons for one person might be the darkest of seasons for another. So I think his fruit also is not judged by us, it's just by God. And so we all know that God sees the heart, and we as humans, we see everything else. We see the outer appearance, and what we feel like is fruitful. So it might be an off season for my boy. It's all right. We all have them.
Well, and then I think you said something that was that made me think, especially when it comes to my life. Do I always bear the fruit? Do I always bear fruit? And this is not a get out of jail card for Kanye West. This is literally saying, are we always bearing fruit? Because if that was the case, if everything we handle, um, how would I put it? If we handle every situation the right way, what would we need Christ for, in that same sense? But not only that, I think the other part that comes to my mind is thinking, okay, Kanye West, maybe this goes back to the saying, where's his accountability?
Yeah.
I believe that there has to be some kind of accountability going on. And I don't think he has any accountability around him, even though still he has to attest himself to God for the things that he and the actions he's doing. But it also makes me ask questions like, Floyd, are you always bearing fruit in and out of season? because I believe that there are some times where I handle things through emotions, and then there are some times I handle things through the wisdom that God has given me.
For sure. I definitely agree. And to go off this question of what Miss Leah said, so to whom much is given, much is required, right? Of course. That's Bible. Like literally. And we have to be mindful of stewardship. And that for me, when I think about that scripture or read that scripture, that requirement is stewardship. How are we handling, how are we taking care of the things that God has given us, whether that be talents, whether that be money, whether that be skills, whether that be family, a car, a house, simple things like that. How are we really taking the what we're giving and like handling it well? And so I think when it comes to Kanye, um like I said, he's done his best in some seasons to handle it one way, and now in this season he's handling things another way. And I think also you pointed out something about emotion earlier. I think emotion has a lot to do with this. um we all display feelings of hurt and guilt, shame, all of these negative emotions. We display them all differently, and so I feel like for him, this is his way of displaying them. I'm not saying that it's right, and I'm not saying that it's the best way to go about it, but this is how he's doing it. And at the end of the day, like, either we can help him, we can, you know um nurture and teach him. And this takes me back to the conversation we had about being canceled. How do we help people who we've casted out, or we wanted to cast out, or whatever? Like, are we teaching them, are we pulling them to the side and saying, hey, this is what it really is, or this is how you could have done this better? So yeah, I think that definitely, to whom much is given, much is required. And you take things from different seasons, from the season before. That's what taught you to deal with what is ahead. So yeah.
Oh, that's very true. And I see where you Leah, why is it called judging when you're literally telling someone what the Bible says? I don't. So for me, first, let me go ahead and say this: I don't agree with none of the things that Kanye West has been doing lately. So I put that out there for you. But I do believe that sometimes people say judging because when you tell them what the Bible says, they look at your life and wonder, are you doing exactly that? So to them, they take it as judging because do it reflect in your life as well. I also believe that when it comes to telling somebody what the Bible says, you also got to be willing to take upon the responsibility as that brother or sister to walk with that person through what the Bible is saying. And walking with somebody through what the Bible is saying is not just reading them a scripture, but it's actually saying, hey, this is how you walk through this step by step. That means, hey, I gotta call you and check up on you. Make sure you're in the right space. That's why now I've learned to say, how are you doing mentally, not just how you doing. Because when I say how are you doing, everybody has the same expression or the same response. Uh, what it is, I can't complain. And then the truth is, you want to complain. You somebody like, man, somebody at my job right now I can't handle the things that are happening in my life. And then I also see where you said they don't want to be held accountable. None of us do. None of us want to be held accountable for anything. That self accountability is very hard. Nobody wants to be held accountable when it comes to doing what you want to do in your own life. But when it comes to living out the will of God's life, that is why He put people in place to hold you accountable. But again, that's why I say you will have to attest for the things that you do when it comes down to Judgment Day. You have to answer for the actions that you have projected. You have to answer for allowing yourself to let your emotions control what you're doing. Pastor Orr talked about this yesterday. Are we cutting people? Like, are we, cutting them up? Even the part about, are we cutting them off? And I think sometimes that's what a lot of us have done to Kanye West. We've cut him off. I think the red hair was it for a lot of people. After the red hair, everybody was like, okay, this it. I'm done with Kanye. Like,
Right.
anything else for me. he couldn't do anything else. Like he literally could have made Jesus walk for real on water, like whatever, just a funny expression, and we still would have, have him counsel. And I think that's the part that was hard about Pastor Orr's sermon yesterday was how do you not cut them off when they've done all these things, when they've hurt you, when they come against you, when you tried to help this person and they pushed you to the side, how do you not cut them off? And I think that's the part where it goes in, are we judging? Are we really walking with them through this thing? Are we just telling them what the Bible says, but are we showing them what the Bible says?
Yeah. Agree. Going back to accountability, and Lee, I'm gonna talk about this question too. Accountability equals responsibility. Most of the time we are not afraid of the task. We're afraid of what comes with the task, because we know if we say yes once, if we tell God yes once, we're going to do it again. Because that's just the life we live as a believer. If he comes and says, okay, this is what I need you to do, or this is what I have for you to do, most of the time we do say yes. I'm not gonna say right off the bat we do, but most of the time we say yes, and we're like, okay, but there is a responsibility that comes with that yes. And I think a lot of us, we don't take the time to kind of sit with our yes. I'll say yes, Lord, yes, to your will and to your way. Whatever you want me to say, God, whatever you want me to do. And then when it's time to do it, we like, whoa, 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 hold on. This was a lot. You didn't tell me that all this would be added unto me. You didn't tell me that I would have to do this, and I would have to stop this, and I would have to change this and tweak this. And so I think for a lot of people, when it comes to accountability, like you say, none of us want to be held accountable. Because of the responsibility that comes with accountability too. So as a proclaimed Christian, what is Kanye displaying to others that we are trying to reel in for Christ? Are you asking what is he displaying to people who we're trying to bring to the kingdom? That's what I'm gonna go with. Being honest with you, I think he is just displaying who he is. He's a human being.
I think, and if that is how you're asking that question, I think Kanye has a platform that a lot of us don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, he's able to reach some people that are not reachable to us. You know what I'm saying? I think that where Kanye West is at this moment, right now, I think Kanye is in a place where he's trying to, again, figure himself out. You know what that's like in your journey walking with Christ, trying to figure yourself out while getting to know Christ. So it's like, Christ, this relationship, I'm trying to understand who you want me to be. At the same time, I'm struggling with the ideal of who I thought I was supposed to be. And I do believe that Kanye has a reach, that Kanye has an opportunity to bring in people that we may not ever get a chance to put our hands on. Again, I keep saying, I don't believe some of the things that he's doing is right. But I do believe there are some things that we could take from it and we could help. Like I said, I wish I had the opportunity to talk to Kanye. I wish I could call Kanye up right now and just chat with him. I mean, I would do my best to try to bring that brother in. But at the end of the day, I remember too, I'm still walking this journey as well. So I have people on side of me too. Because today is Monday and I can talk about Kanye, but come Tuesday and I'm talking about myself when I'm not doing something that God has called me to do. So it begins those questions when we look at our own life. There are things that we have to work through. There are things that we're going to work through constantly. Like I feel like God is going to complete that finished work, but it's a walk. It's a daily journey. And that's the reason why I say Kanye West, because at this moment, he is that public figure that everybody is watching. But at the same time, what's attached to him is the idea or the fact that he says he's a believer in Jesus Christ. So I can speak towards him because he says that he's a believer. So what does his life look like compared to somebody that's a celebrity just like Kanye, but does not believe in Christ? Well, he can do whatever he wants to do. The rules does not apply. The will of God does not apply to somebody that does not believe in Jesus Christ. We have not, that conversation means nothing. But in this context, as we talk about Kanye, he says that he's a believer. So what does his life look like as it reflects, and how do we walk with this brother as we walk ourselves with Christ? I see that you say exactly. We sing, if you can use anything, you can use me, but we have to know that it's not all good things. Sometimes we will go through storms, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. That is very true. I think that's why we have to be careful of how we jump to saying, "Hey, God, use me." We have to be very careful about how we do that that opportunity of saying, "God, use me," because we've seen in the Bible um, those different stories and narratives where we notice that some of those things being used were not what a lot of us wanted to go through. Uh, let's see. You come with the questions. I like it. Exactly. So ultimately, why equate yourself to Jesus as Jesus? In a sense, again, that's why I said I believe that Kanye is in a search for who he really is. I think he's at a point in his life where he understands that he is not Jesus. I think he sees that now when he's not able to see his kids every day, as much as he want to be with his kids, as much as he wishes kids could be in his presence. He can't make them appear in his presence. He does not have control over that. So I think the Jesus part is over with. I think he's done with that. But I do believe that Kanye is in a place where he's still trying to figure out, how do I trust Jesus to help me through these situations? How do I trust Jesus to help me lead my family? How do I trust Jesus in this divorce? How do I trust Jesus with that? But at the same time, I'm still this person of power that struggle. How do I still be in control of it? Now look at our life when it comes to us. How do I have control over things in my own life? When somebody hurt me, how do I take it into my hands and use it for my advantage? How do I take this power and in a sense of saying, like, I've had this power for so long where I can control things. I'm a billionaire. I'm this big figure. I'm this person. But now I'm realizing that I can get cut. I bleed too. I'm not God. And I think he's in a place of identity crisis. And that's why I keep constantly saying, but look at yourself in the mirror. How many times are we in a position in our life that we're going through an identity crisis? Because every season is different. What I look like today might not be what I look like tomorrow, because life will take place. But I do want to say this too, Dunda. Like I keep putting this out there. Dunda was a very big part of his foundation. When that was removed from him, his identity was removed as well, because who he knew himself to be was was acclaimed and was affirmed through his mother. That's a voice. If I want to call, I'm blessed enough right now. If I want to be affirmed by my mother, I can pick up my phone and I can call her and she can affirm me. I'm gonna let that. She can affirm me. Now I don't have that person that I can call that can affirm me in my life. Guess what? Now I'm speaking and talking to God. And that sometimes God is quiet. And then there's some moments in life God will speak. And no, not an audible voice out of the sky, but he will speak through other people. He will speak through his word. He will speak. But there's some times where he's quiet.
Yeah.
You don't get that quick access to being affirmed. So this is a journey for him. Just like it's a journey for us. You know? Anything you want to add to that, Gab?
I think we forget that we are different people at different seasons in our lives, and you touched on it. We are not the same as we were when we were 7. That 7-year-old is not the same as we were when we turned 18, and now I'm 24, and I'm definitely not the same person I was a year ago. We evolve and we become different people every single day of our lives, and though we are changing, I think the beauty in that is that God is so consistent and he's so dependable. And even in our fickleness, like God is really, um, he's just the same. And so I think we have to really, especially when it comes to people that we deem important or we attach labels and titles to, I think we always go with excuse me, the label and the title and not the actual being of who this person is. Especially once they proclaim to be this, that, and the third. And I think we really have to take a step back and put ourselves in the shoes of these people and say, if this were me, how would I deal with it? And the thing about it is you wouldn't know how to because you're not there. But at the end of the day, like, we have to really just be as personable as possible in order for us to help other people. In order for us to bring people to Christ, we must be Christ-like. And Jesus took our place on the cross, so we could have a symbol, someone to look to in order to give those fruits of the spirit and just be who we're called to be. I definitely think that foundation is necessarily but with Kanye, his foundation became an idol in a sense. And some may agree with me, some may not. His mother wasn't his mother taught him, but the faith that he had was put into his mom, not put into God and Jesus. Which is why Floyd said when he lost his mother, he lost himself, because that was the only piece of peace, in a sense. That was the only peace that he had on earth, when he kept getting denied, when he was working so hard, when he was just trying to get his music out there. The first thing he did when he got, got welcome to the convention in Chicago, after that was over, he went to his mama's house. When he was in trouble, after that whole situation, like, he went to his mom's house because that was the place that he found peace. And so for us as believers, we find peace in the presence of God. And so for him, in my mind, how I viewed it is that, his mom was his God for a minute. And
No,
that's that's where he placed his faith in. And so I feel like we've all been there at some point in time. We say, oh, my faith is in God, but we actually put faith in something else, and our trust in something else, trying to make it fit, and it just doesn't. And so when we lose that thing, and sometimes it is a person, sometimes it's a job, whatever, and when we lose that thing, we're stripped and we don't know which way to go. We don't know how to deal. And so that is why, remaining in the presence of God is so powerful and it's so needed. That's why communication with God, that's why praying and listening is so important in order for us to sustain a relationship, and to also sustain that peace. Like, it's very important. So yeah, I think Kanye, for him, there is a very fine line between genius and insane. And I do think Kanye West is a certified genius. Do not get me wrong. The way that he hears things is so different. And the way that his brain works is completely different. Some people call it crazy. Sure. But you have to admit that the man really does have skill, and he has talents, and he has things that, pull on the heartstrings of people that other people probably would not touch, because we don't have that skill. And one thing I heard a sermon yesterday, this preacher, he said, when God is bringing us into a new season, or when he's like bringing forth a new thing, he pulls out a new talent, a new gift, a new skill. And I think for Kanye in this season, that new skill might be influence, and the way he influences people. Yeah, I
yeah.
really do think that might be a thing for him.
So you said like the part, the genius part and the insanity part, and I know our time is coming, so I'm trying to get this one in quick because a lot of I seen so two people actually brought it up. A good brother of mine, CJ, he brought it up about the if Kanye would have did what Will Smith did last night. And then I heard somebody else ask that question: if Kanye would have did what Will Smith did last night, the quickest thing would have been said, Well, see that's the reason why we say he crazy. I want to do this, and I know this ain't got nothing to do with Will Smith and Jay. Gotta bring this in. You all, mental health is important. Mental health is important. It's a lot of us, no matter if you're a billionaire to a person that got $0 in your account, mentally you are somewhere in your life trying to figure this thing called life out. And mentally, I believe Kanye West, Will Smith, they deal with things and they are on a bigger platform. So everybody gets to see their flaws, their good, their bad, and ugly. I don't have to see you don't Debbie can't see my good, bad, and ugly unless I allow her to see it. I'm not on no I can hide what I want to. See, on this camera screen, the light looks good, but you don't see what the dark looks like. And so I think that's where we have to understand with our brothers and sisters, the mental aspect of life. The spiritual is very important. The physical is too, but mentally, the enemy comes for your mind. And once he gets your mind, he knows will fall. And that's why mentally we have to be rooted. And when I say rooted, you got to be in that thing every day. Because when I see a person like Will Smith, I look at it and I understand the part of defending his wife because I'm a married man. You're going to defend your wife. You're going to make sure your wife feels protected. But I also see him responding in a mental aspect way of him dealing with, if you read his book, he said that he dealt with being a coward because he seen his mother go through domestic abuse and he never took up for her. He never jumped in to save her. And I think he responded last night in emotion, but not only emotion, that fear of going back to feeling mentally like a coward. So what do I do in this moment? Wisdom probably would have helped save some time and said, hey, I take care of this another way. But right in their emotions responding and said, I'm not gonna be a coward today. And I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna make sure this person see that. Kanye West, the same way. He's putting that a public platform, they're putting whatever they can, they're responding emotionally. But this is the question I want to ask people that are viewing right now. How many times do we respond emotionally in our day-to-day life? Instead of using wisdom, the sound mind that God has given us, how many times is it the emotional side? And then see, and when you look at the emotional side, that's where the mental part comes into play because emotionally it's also attached to your mental. A lot of people say emotionally that goes to your heart, but emotionally that's your mental. And so if emotionally my mental is saying you gotta fight or flight, what are you gonna do in this situation? Either you're gonna walk away from it and deal with the consequence of saying that you never handle it, or you gonna attack it. And then sometimes it's good, it's okay to respond in the fight aspect, and then there's sometimes that you gotta respond in the flight aspect. But I bring this part up because I want us all to understand the importance of mental health. We all are fighting that mental battle. That's a war that nobody else can see, and it's going on in your mind. And so now we see Kanye. The biggest thing we could do is say, look at him, he crazy. But I promise you, if it was us on that same stage, we probably would get the same reaction if people was attacking us in all kinds of ways. And again, like I said, that's why it took me some time to process. Yes, I laughed at the memes. The memes were very funny. Yes, I was tickled. Shared some with my wife. But the reality is, when I sat down and I thought about it, the truth was that I seen a man respond because at that point in time, mentally, he wasn't going to allow himself to be a coward again. Kanye is not going to allow himself to lose somebody again. He lost his mom. Now he's losing his wife. He feel like he's losing his kids. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure I don't lose my kids. And sometimes lose my wife, whatever it may be, wife or ex-wife, whatever she is to him. But I'm saying emotionally, mentally, he's fighting in an aspect of fear of losing someone again. Just like last night, Will Smith was fighting in the emotional response of saying, I don't want to be a coward. So this is the best way I can handle it instead of using wisdom because there's always another way to handle something.
I definitely agree. I think when it comes to those two people, we do have to think about the fact that they're prominent black men. So you as a black man, I feel like can relate in the fact of you just being a black man, what you have to go through every day, what you've, grown up with culturally, the things that you've gone through, the struggles that you have gone through. Imagine that blown up like 10,000 times more for these people. Their lives are on display. And I know some people are like, well, if you don't put your business out there, then it won't be out there. That's not how things work in the entertainment industry. So sorry. It's just not what it is. And I think that for both of them, their smaller selves showed up. Have they that their younger selves have been showing up a lot more. One because I'm gonna say they are healing, or at least trying to, or maybe like thereof. I don't think that Kanye has grieved healthily at all. His mom. It was so sudden for him. It wasn't something that he was expecting. I don't know. I don't. Most of us don't expect death to come like it does, but um, I think it really shook him because he felt like he had nowhere else to go. And then when it comes to Will, I feel like that was just the straw that broke the camel's back for him. Being honest, we don't know how Will Smith feels. If you want us to be completely honest about it, he hasn't really said much about the things that have gone on, or just even, what happened last night. He issued out an apology. I saw that too. And the final line was, "I'm a work in progress." And I think for most people, at least for me, I took it and I was like, yeah, and so am I. Like I said, you don't know how you're going to react in a situation until you are in the situation. And for him, for both of them, I feel like you said, Floyd, like he doesn't want to lose anybody again. Kanye doesn't want to lose anybody again. Will doesn't want to be the coward that he felt like he was when he was younger. They don't want to revert back. So in order for me not to do that, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to show myself. This is how I'm going to present myself. This is the armor that I'm going to put on. This is the hill I'm going to die on, because I can't afford it. Costs too much for me to lose it again. It costs too much. You know what I'm saying? I lost myself, I just put myself back together. Like, and I think we've all been there. Like, I just, everything has just finally come together, and then they fall apart again. So I think that for them, definitely mentally, and emotionally, that's a lot to go through. And if you haven't been through divorce before, you don't know how that feels. If you don't know what it feels like to have your significant other disrespected publicly, internationally, nationally, you don't know how it feels. So, all the think pieces on
Right.
these people
Right.
um, are not warranted or volunteered. Well, they're not warranted, but they are volunteered.
For sure.
Um, and I
Even
just go ahead.
no, I was saying even because you answering her question. I see Crystal said, "How do we practice our responses to compromising positions such as the one Will was in last night?" You just answered. You don't know what you'll do until you're in that situation. I use this when I do marriage counseling. I not even just marriage counseling, when I do mentorship with other brothers, and I always talk about this. A lot of people talk about, when it comes to basketball, or football, sports analogy. It's like, why he didn't go lay the ball up like that? Why he didn't do this? And the truth is, and then we quickly say, if it was me, I would have did like that. But see, you see it from a different point of view, but a person inside of the actual game, they see it in another way. You see it in another way. And what I mean by that is you don't know who you are until you're in the way. So that's why you got to be careful how you respond to what other people are doing. You can't be like, ha ha ha, that wouldn't be me. Because the reality is it could just very well be you, because you don't know who you are until you are in that situation. You think you know who you are, but see, this is where you get into my place of where I'm thankful for God, His grace, because His grace covers us so much to the point He does not allow us to see how ugly we are. We can be very ugly, but because of God's grace, He covers that to the point where it doesn't matter. Like in some situations, God would not allow us to go through. His grace is so sufficient that it's enough. But at the same time, you have to be careful
when you see a brother or sister going through a situation, or if you see another man and you see him stepping out and be like, I wouldn't do that. You don't know what you would do. You don't know who you are until you are in that situation. That is the reason why I go back to the accountability part. You need first, it got to be God first. But God puts accountability partners around you to hold you accountable for when those situations come. Somebody that can hold you back. I'm talking about somebody you can trust that will not allow you to do something that they know they wouldn't do themselves. Now, if somebody's rooting you on saying, do what you got to do, take care like you need to take care, then you, I'm not accountability partner, them yes men, yes women,
Yeah.
is this you all. You got to make sure when you are walking through this thing called life, as you continue to evolve and become who God is calling you to be, have people that are going to hold you accountable. Listen, I know I'm going on a rant, but I gotta say this. I do not like critiquing me. I don't like being critiqued because I always had this thing in my mind. I want to be perfect. But I understand with wisdom, this is the emotion side. I don't like being critiqued. But the wisdom part is understanding that being critiqued, it helps me become better. It helps me to become who God is calling me to be. It helps me to see my ugliness. It helps me to get a chance to understand that I have to remain humble so God can work in my life and exalt me to the next place in my life that He wants me to be. But again, this is the emotional response. No, no, no. Don't critique me because I want to be perfect. I have that fear. If I'm not perfect, nobody is going to accept me. But the wisdom is that, listen, God accepts me regardless to whatever my flaws may be. He made me, He created me, He allowed me to have breath in my body. He wakes me up every day. He gives me enough grace for all the things that I've done, will do, have done, thinking about doing. And the point is, end of the day, again, I don't know who I am in that situation, but God does. And so that's why He puts people around you, people beside you, people in front of you to hold you accountable. And that's the point that I wanted this Kanye West think tank to hit at, that we all could be a Kanye at some point in our life. We just not on a big platform as Kanye that everybody can see it, but we all can be a Kanye. But if at the end of the day, if there is a Kanye, don't you want some grace? If you're Kanye, don't you want grace? If you're Kanye, don't you want some grace? And I think we all can give each other grace. Gabby gives me grace when I mess with her. My wife gives me grace. Son, he told me that I hurt his feelings. So hopefully he give me some grace. You know what I'm saying? Telling me that I hurt his feelings. But that's neither here nor there. My point is we all should want grace. If we Kanye, if we Floyd, if we Gabby, we Nadia, whoever we may be, we all want grace. And that's what this is all about. So Gabby, you got anything else you want to say before we close?
Um, I think my final thoughts are crystal. To like go back into your question, you see from where you sit, and you have to
Like,
realize that wherever your seat is at that point in time, that is the one that you are responsible for. That is the one that you are accountable for. And we have to learn to not try to take on other people's seats because we haven't made it there yet. And sometimes that's not where we're going in the first place. Some of us have to we all take different routes, and that is okay. So really being thankful for the fact that God created us. He gave us a life where we do need Him. Because if He didn't, we would be perfect and life would be very boring, if you want to be honest about it. With, walking around with perfect people, without the trials and tribulations, where, like, who would we be? What would we really look like? Yeah, I think grace is definitely a huge, huge part of being a believer in general. And it's so hard to give people grace who have wronged you, who, transgressed against you, people who you don't agree with, people who you don't agree with. It's very difficult sometimes to give those people grace, but we have to remember, like Floyd said, like God gives us grace every single day. Every single day. that he chooses to use us, chooses to wake us up. He literally blesses us with grace. And so being grateful for a life that he has created for us to need him is probably one of the biggest blessings ever. So yeah.
All right, man. Appreciate it, Kevin. And I thank everybody that got a chance to tune in with us. If not, share this with your friend, tell a friend, and tell a friend. The Think Tank season 2 has already started off with some good fire. The next episode is called Black Men Deserve to Cry Too. Oh man, I can't wait for this one. We really gonna dive into some stuff about black men, and like I said, black men deserve to cry too. So we're gonna get different aspects. And something Gabby said, go back and listen to the Wide Corner where we talked about Jonah and giving grace to people that have hurt you and harmed you, your enemies. And then go listen to Pastor Orr's sermon this weekend, man. Matter of fact, listen to all the last 2 sermons that Pastor Orr did these last 2 weeks, because he's been definitely hitting a nail on the coffin. But yes, Black Men Deserve to Cry Too will be our next think tank. Please tell a friend to join in with us. And God is doing some special things over at Brown. If you're not a member, you don't have a church home, come on. And if you don't know Christ, come on, let's have that conversation. Let's talk about him. Because like I said, he has grace for you, just like he has grace for me. And I do believe that like God has a plan for Kanye, he has a plan for you. So you all be safe. And as we always say here at YA, protect yourself.